Hey, everybody. Welcome to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends. Have a pretty fun and very interesting one for you today. So recently it has come to my attention that there is an online Zoomer male phenomenon called looksmaxing. And effectively, the king of this community is a streamer named Clvicular. That's his online name, of course. He recently got a lot of attention for this interview he did with Michael Knowles, in which he said that even though he likes Trump and is basically a right-winger, he would vote for Gavin Newsom over J.D. Vance because Gavin Newsom, quote, mogs him to death. He said he doesn't really care about what transgender people do because that's just one more person to mog. A lot of very interesting things that he had to say in that interview. So I was asking myself, who is the person that I could dig into this phenomenon of who this person is, where he came from, what he's all about, what it says about Zoomers, what it says about online culture, what it says about our politics, how this is intersecting with some of the other online groups like the Groupers. And of course, the perfect person came to mind, Taylor Lorenz. And in fact, she just published a great piece on her podcast, which is called The Power User. She takes a look. She's an independent journalist who looks at tech and online culture. She really is like deeply steeped in this sort of stuff. So I thought she could decode it all for me and decode it all for you. Make sure you support Taylor's work, both at her podcast and also she authors the User Mag newsletter. So check her out there as well. Let's go ahead and get to the conversation. Taylor Lorenz, welcome. Happy New Year. Great to get to chat with you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I'm hoping you can help me understand and make sense more of this phenomenon of looksmaxing and this particular guy, Clvicular. I was telling you, I think he sort of started to creep into my consciousness a few months back. I couldn't say exactly where, some clip that was shared or whatever, and then just really exploded into my awareness with this Michael Knowles interview where he said all sorts of interesting and at times, frankly, hilarious things. But you did a deep dive on who he is, where he came from, etc. So if you could just start with the basics of what even is looksmaxing. What is that?
Looksmaxing is something that's definitely not new. It's honestly from like 20 years ago, early internet forums, kind of 4chan communities. And it's sort of born out of reactionary incel. Now it's known as sort of like the manosphere culture. It's essentially just
like the pickup artist stuff, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. It's very pickup artist adjacent. It's just about looking your best. But looking your best through like very extreme means and sort of using these like mathematical equations to determine, like the perfect jaw angle versus nose, measurements and things like that. And sort of this idea of self-optimization. Like if you can ascend from, a low mid-tier normie or whatever, they have all these ratings to a Chad, you'll be this like alpha guy who will dominate women.
It's sort of confusing to me as a woman because my perception, and maybe look, like I'm 44 years old. I, have teenagers, but I can't say that I'm like really, steeped in what the Zoomer culture is. But my perception has always been that looks for men are not actually that important. And so societally, obviously women go to all sorts of lengths, myself included, to like looksmax, right? And, I feel like Kim Kardashian and that whole direction in terms of the surgeries is sort of like the female version of this. But for men to also take this on themselves, I'm like, why would you do this to yourself?
I know.
This is terrible. I wish I could opt out. Like if I was a stronger person, I would, but I don't,
So much of like the looksmaxing world is just, it's so similar to what women go through every day. Like taking the diet pills, obsessing about their weight, obsessing about their body, like their skincare routine, wearing makeup. All of it is it's nothing new to any woman that has grown up here. I think what's different is this sort of ideology and hatred of women that is very intertwined in it. Some looksmaxers, they will be like, not all looksmaxers. So I just want to say not all looksmaxers, but a significant portion of them do subscribe to this very reactionary ideology. And their whole belief is that it's so hard to quote unquote money max or status max these days because the entire economy is broken. They're all black pilled now over sort of everything. That actually looksmaxing is the most achievable way to kind of up yourself in society.
So what I want to dig into more of that in a minute, but I do want to get into the specific character, Clvicular, who, went on with Michael Knowles and was like, listen, I'm not voting for JD Vance because he's subhuman, I think is what he said. And Gavin Newsom mogs him to death and, really took this, I guess, ideology, which is at its core just totally nihilistic rather than, the aspirational, like, we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. We should change people's perception so that you don't have an inherent advantage just based on, like, the way that you look. That's a very surface level thing. They sort of take the view of this is how the world is and make it even more extreme. Like, this is the only thing that, and you're guaranteed success if you look good and you're guaranteed failure if you don't look good. So in any case, how did this young guy, 19 years old, come to this fairly extreme and incredibly dark view of the world?
So Braden Peters grew up in a pretty traditional suburban neighborhood in New Jersey. He had, I believe he went to Catholic school for a while. He struggled a lot socially. He has spoken about being autistic and spoken about kind of like really struggling to understand things, social dynamics, right? Like, why was this kid invited to this? Like, why does this girl talk to this person and not that person? Why won't anybody talk to me, right? Like, this is stuff that everybody goes through during puberty and especially those like difficult early teen years. But I think for him, he kind of went into this dark path where he just became obsessed with a lot of sort of darker communities. So he talks about watching a Nick Fuentes video, watching early John Zerka videos. I might be butchering his name, but a bunch of famous fitness influencers. One of his parents was a bodybuilder as well. So I think potentially the home environment that he was growing up in, we don't know, anything much about his parents' parenting style, but I think the bodybuilding community can be very intense on looks. And so he sort of, evolved into having an interest in this. This was definitely not his full-time thing. And he kind of became more and more obsessed with this world, fell deeper and deeper into it to the point that he started to sort of give advice to other people, was selling that advice online, was encouraging other people to take steroids. He himself started steroids at age 14. And then he sort of then he gets a job at a nightclub when I think he's 17 or 18 years old, as a bouncer standing outside. And he starts to notice the social dynamics. And that sort of he talks about as like confirming this entire worldview of like hot girls leave with hot guys, And it's, he's a child. I mean, he's not a child technically, but like he started to form a lot of this ideology when he was a young child.
When he was still a child. And because of the, I guess, steroid use from a young age, he says he is sterile. At least at this point, which is, just again, deeply sad. And also, I don't know, talk a little bit more about the view of women, because on the one hand, he'll talk about how if you want to get, and, his view formed at these nightclubs or whatever, like if you want to get the hot girl, then you've got to look a certain way, which again is not even my experience, but whatever, put that aside. Okay, if you want to get maybe for like a one night stand at a club, okay, sure. Like if that's the entirety of your worldview, right? But for anything more significant, not so much. But in any case, on the one hand, I'll talk about that. On the other hand, he'll be very dismissive of any sort of real interest in women. He's like, yeah, I'm not really about that right now. Like, that's just not really my focus. And then, as you point out, there's also just a lot of hostility towards women. Again, not all looksmaxers, I guess, but in a lot of these communities. So is the looksmaxing to get girls? Is it ambivalent to girls? Because the other piece of this is like, the particular look seems much more crafted for the male gaze than for the female gaze.
Yes, yes. Which is true and has been true for years. Like this has always been a criticism of like gym bro culture, right? Is like that super jacked, ripped look. Like it's generally not for other women. The female gaze is very different. That's been sort of much discussed. I think because looksmaxing, again, is sort of born out of this like incel ideology. There's a lot of resentment. A lot of these people, these men are looking to improve their look specifically to get women. They consider women to be, you'll hear them use this word hypergamous a lot, where they say, essentially there's these broken dating dynamics where women are dating up. Again, they're obsessed with ranking and trying to understand the world through like numbers and ranks. And you can see why,
which is also very spectrumy.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a lot of people, unfortunately, on the spectrum that I think fall into these ideologies because it is confusing. It is hard to kind of understand the world, especially, if your main perception of it is just watching who goes home with who in a nightclub. And now he's just roaming around Miami nightclubs. It's like, yeah, that's not a real view probably of like how people form long lasting relationships, et cetera. But he got, I mean, a formative event for him is when he gets kicked out of college like a year and a half ago. He was attending Sacred Heart University, small school, I think it's a Catholic school. And basically the school was informed of him encouraging other people to use steroids and sort of discovered his online posting habits. And that's when he sort of just goes all in. And I think that's when he became incredibly nihilist, because he talks about like losing that opportunity to go to school and how he wishes he had the chance to just be a normal college kid. And that was taken away from him by the internet. And so now he's saying basically like, fuck it, I'm just going all in and I'm just gonna, looksmax until I die, which he acknowledges might be, earlier than it would have been if he had not taken all of these steps.
What steps has he taken?
So he started the steroids when he was 14. He spends tens of thousands of dollars a year on peptides. There's a big thing right now with these like Chinese peptides, and peptides are these sort of different things you can like inject or put topically on your skin to improve different physiology things. I'm definitely not, you can tell I'm not a looksmaxer myself. I have tried peptides. I did not work very well for me, but I use them in my skincare. And he does a lot of other things. He's talked about using methamphetamine. He's talked about using methamphetamine, which he says he got prescribed from a doctor, but it's essentially meth, and how he takes meth to like lean max, although he says he's off of it now. And then he's also well known for bone smashing, which is when you kind of bang your bones repeatedly in the hopes that they will grow and sort of, I guess, grow out and grow stronger. He plans to get double jaw surgery. So he plans to go to Turkey to get 2 double jaw implants. And he wants to, even though he's 6'2", he wants to get limb lengthening surgery to make himself 6'6".
Okay, so that's more ideal than 6'2". Because again, I feel like, I don't know, with some of these things, I don't doubt that there definitely is a thing for short guys. I know that that's like a big sense of insecurity for a lot of shorter guys, but like 6'2" is already plenty tall. So it's really, you need to be 6'6". You're gonna go through all these extreme measures just to get that little bit of extra cherry on top, I guess.
It's really funny. Some of these men in these communities, they love to wear lifts in their shoes, and you'll see men that are 6'2" and 6'3" talking about how they wear lifts in their shoes to give them 3 inches more height or whatever, so that they can be 6'6" in the club. I know, they're wearing like platforms.
Ron DeSantis, looksmaxer.
Yeah. It's this idea of like being the ultimate Chad, right? Like mogging everyone in the club. You are superior. I mean, a lot of it's obviously very tied in with eugenics and racism and other sort of beliefs like, around bigotry of like, I'm superior. I'm not like a lowly mouth breather. You can see even just the sort of ideal of beauty that they have is this very Eurocentric idea of beauty where they are constantly kind of criticizing wider features and, Black people's features and things like that.
Yeah, I heard him talking to Michael Knowles about how the ideal like skin tone is European with a tan, basically. Yeah. So you can see how all of these it's racist and eugenicist type of views come in.
It's all just like woven in together to this deeply misogynistic view of the world, which it's so crazy to me because this system that they're angry at, which is this like system where, it sucks that like beautiful people get more in life. It sucks that men are held to these, that women filter out height requirements, or whatever. That's due to the patriarchy. That's due to misogyny. And that's due to these patriarchal beliefs that we have around like men and protectionism and, the physical strength that they have to exert and stuff. Like that is actually quite upheld by men. That is a system produced by men. So, there's some irony there, but
I've been sort of playing with that idea of like, women, because it was more obvious the oppression of the patriarchies have gone through these waves of feminism, and not to say that everything's all better, but have asserted rights for themselves, have carved out spaces. So like, okay, I can be a mom, but I can also be in the workplace. Like I can do all of these things. It doesn't have to fit into a box. And as we were doing that over successive generations, it feels like men need their own sort of like liberation movement to break out of these boxes that they still have for themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also like, it's so interesting, like these reactionary ideologies that are forming around exactly like those views that you said. I think so many men are feeling disenfranchised. They're feeling, they're feeling the brunt of our broken economic system, just the way that women are. We're all suffering under capitalism. And I think that they feel like, yeah, their parents or grandparents were entitled to this certain like lifestyle and, obedient wife or whatever. And now they'll never have that. A lot of the nihilism comes from knowing, again, that you'll never be able to money max. You'll never be able to buy a home. You'll never be able to do all these other things. So looks are this one thing that you can control. So focus on that. And that's sort of one way that you can, mog other guys in the club and feel superior and, maybe get some woman. Although they don't seem to value women very much, which is, interesting. It's like they're not very trad in the sense that like Clvicular says he's slept with like 150 women or something, which is crazy. I don't believe that at all, but who knows?
Maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
Like he's let me go ahead and play a little bit of what he had to say as we get into like how this intersects with politics.
Yes.
So the fact of Michael Knowles doing this interview is kind of interesting to me to start with, because Daily Wire is losing subscribers, sort of like losing a lot of relevance. And so this felt to me like, okay, here's this like young guy on the come up who's gained this huge following in a very short period of time. Let me try to like glom on to some of that and maintain some relevance here. So, but Michael doesn't get the answers that he wants on a variety of topics. Let me go ahead and play a little bit here of him asking Clvicular about Gavin Newsom versus JD Vance and the response that he gets.
Yeah, but I mean, like this next election cycle, who's going to win? It's going to be Gavin Newsom against JD Vance because JD Vance is subhuman and Gavin Newsom mugs.
JD Vance is subhuman?
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
He's got a very short total facial width to height ratio. He's obese, very recessed side profile, whereas Newsom is like 6'3" Chad.
Gavin Newsom obviously mocks him for that, Taylor. So what else is there really? I mean, and it goes on from there.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now.